Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Darwin Porter. Good morning, Darwin.
Good morning to you, Anita. It is great to talk to you this dog days of August.
Dog days, huh? Well, it is, I guess that's what, I don't know why they call that. Is it because it's so hot?
Yes, it's a thing that originated in the South. They didn't have air conditioning, and they sat out with the dogs on the front porch patting themselves.
Oh, okay.
They called it the dog.
Are you sitting
anyway,
out?
Here we are.
Are you
now,
sitting out on your porch?
What's that?
Darwin, are you sitting out on your porch now in these dog days?
No, but I sure have 3 of them. And the breezes come in from the ocean, so I'm pretty cool this summer. I want to talk about, unlike your other guests, I want to talk about female beauty.
Okay.
Now, I have been asked among about 500 other people, mostly film historians. They're taking a poll, and they want us to name the 25 most beautiful movie stars before 1960 that ever graced the silver screen. And the idea is to do a big collector's edition for libraries and private collectors, and also a possible museum devoted to big blow-ups of these stars and key moments.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited by it. They're hoping to either open it in Hollywood Boulevard or in Las Vegas, which has a big market for this kind of thing. So the first thing I did, this is great. I sat down and off the top of my head wrote down 100 women.
Oh, my gosh.
I couldn't do that with stars of today, but I could do it with stars of yesterday. You know, I do picture myself as somewhat of an expert on that subject.
So it's going to be your responsibility of the 100 that you just casually thought of choose the 25, right?
I have done that, and it was a very... The first 10 or 12 were easy, but it got harder as I got down the list. But now we don't have time for all 25, but I'd like to read you, talk to you about at least maybe 10 or 12 that I put near the top of the list just for fun, okay?
I'm waiting.
I had to lead off with the great Greta Garbo. She was hauntingly beautiful with those sad, searching eyes. Perhaps she's too richly overwrought for modern artists of today, but she was an enchantress. She appeared in the late 20s, and she mesmerized the Depression-era audiences of the 1930s. And now, I have had a strange relationship of encounters with Greta Garbo. I was leaving a tavern one night in Sweden, where I had been researching Frommer's Sweden, and it was a snowy night in Stockholm, and I'm walking along this deserted street, and suddenly out of the snow emerged Greta Garbo in mink. Like it looked like Queen Christina had come alive again. And throughout my life, I've had a series of strange meeting her in strange places around the world, and that was my first. And my last, I'm dining with this young writer who wanted a job, and we're sitting in a cafe in the window seat having lunch. And all of a sudden, this woman comes and appears in the window and looks down at us. And I said, "Oh, my God, that's Greta Garbo." And then he says to me, "Who is Greta Garbo?"
Right.
You know, the young.
But wait, I have to ask you, so why was she always alone?
Well, she preferred, her famous quote was, "I always want to be alone." She did spend most of her life. She could be amused by herself, And if I look like that, I would just spend a lot of time looking in the mirror. Anyway, I had to lead off after that with my beloved Lana Turner. As you know, she's the subject of my latest book, Hearts and Diamonds Take All.
Yes.
And I've been getting wonderful fan mail about her, more than any letters I've ever received about a star, because she seems to be particularly popular with women of a certain age, but I'm also getting letters from men too, including one from a 94-year-old man in a nursing home. And
now that's funny.
Yeah, but I got to know Lana in 1977, but my first dazzling memory of her, I was about 10 years old, and I had gone to see The Three Musketeers, which were her first Technicolor movie. She played Lady de Winter, dismounting from a stagecoach. And she came on the screen, and I almost just gasped. It's one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen any woman do in film. And she had captured my imagination before that, but I became a lifelong devotee of Lana, who represented the glitz and the glamour of, let's face it, a bygone era. And my other goddess I had to put on there too, and that was another woman I knew, Ava Gardner. She was a Tar Heel beauty. We were both from North Carolina, and she enchanted a generation, not just Frank Sinatra. And the other night, I once again watched her with the Barefoot Contessa, and in it she played a movie star, Maria Vargas, and she appears on the red carpet. Now, I've seen thousands of women appear on the red carpet, but never in my life have I seen an entrance of a woman as beautiful as Ava Gardner in that. Humphrey Bogart, who her co-star, hated her. He said, "You're just a hillbilly." And she said to him, "Bogey, that's what turns them on, honey child." Oh, my God. I had to put Zsa Zsa Gabor on the list. Now, oddly enough, I've spent most of the morning reading this 12-page contract from Hollywood. Ooh, do they draw up tough contracts. They've learned over the years, they don't want to have any loophole. And it's from a film company who wants to make a film of not just Zsa Zsa, but Ava and Magda Gabor, those bombshells from Budapest, and they want to take the option, which I'm supposed to sign today, for either a feature film or a TV series. I think to get their story in, they would need a TV series, but, all I do is sign the document, and then I'm out of it. But
and excuse me, so wait a minute. So who would play Zsa Zsa in this?
Yeah, they asked me about that, and I drew a blank.
Right.
In fact, you and I once talked about that when I first got the offer, and I could have named actresses of long ago, but I just can't think of people who could do it. The only person who really effectively imitated her was the late Debbie Reynolds, who did her better than herself. I love Debbie's impression of Zsa Zsa. Anyway, let's face it, she was a beautiful courtesan. She had also, for English being her second language, she had a wicked sense of humor. Merv Griffin once asked her, how many husbands have you had, Zsa Zsa? And she said, "Do you mean my own or those of other women?"
That's so bad.
I loved her. I guess we should move along.
Well, wait, I want to ask you a question about them. Weren't they short, though? They weren't tall like Ava. Ava Gardner was tall, wasn't she?
Yeah, but they were, many of these stars were short, including the one I'm now talking about, another woman I knew, Joan Crawford. The company I worked for in television had the PepsiCo account, and she was married at the time to Alfred Steele, who was the president of PepsiCo. I love Joan Crawford. I don't care what that Mommy Dearest book said about her. I love the woman. And the girl from San Antonio, she overcame incredible obstacles in her life and became, in the late 20s, the jazz baby of the 20s. But then she endured. She became that sophisticated, hollow-cheeked, clothes horse of the 30s, and then accomplished into one of the great dramatic actresses of the 1940s. And Betty Davis was unkind to her. Davis said, Joan Crawford slept with every male movie star at MGM except Lassie.
Oh, that's so bad. I see, when you look back, people were doing the kinds of things they do today, weren't they?
Yes, they were. But I think the thing that attracted me to Joan Crawford, she had the most beautiful, big eyes. Big eyes. Marlene Dietrich called them bug eyes, but I think Dietrich was a bit jealous. But everyone from Clark Gable to John F. Kennedy went for Joan Crawford. Now, I just mentioned another goddess I got to know, Marlene Dietrich, whom I first met in Tangier when I lived in Morocco. In my opinion, Marlene Dietrich was the femme fatale of the 20th century. Hitler and Goebbels tried to get her to make UFA films, but after playing that tramp, Lola in The Blue Angel, she fled to Hollywood and only went back to Germany after the war. But she was an icon of beauty, and in my opinion, she was the embodiment of erotic sophistication on the screen. And she had sex without gender. That's a good way of putting it.
Wow, that's interesting.
Oh, God. Oh, I had another goddess. You're going to think I spent my life worshiping goddesses, and to some extent, I did. I mean, I must say I did. But although I got to meet her in a tragic circumstances late in life, Rita Hayworth just enthralled me ever since I was a little boy. She was beautifully vivacious. Everyone thought she came from Mexico, but actually she was born in Brooklyn. And, of course, she became a princess. She married Ali Khan, an unfortunate marriage. But she had this stunning auburn hair, and she had this come-hither glint in her eye. And her greatest moment on the screen was in Gilda in 1946. She came out in this sizzling, strutting rendition of Put the Blame on Mame, and she delivered it in a black strapless gown, and it became one of the prime moments in the history of movies. Rita always said, men fell in love with Gilda and woke up in bed with me.
Great sayings. You're good about these sayings.
Oh, but now, the one who tops many lists of the most beautiful woman in films, now again, I said before 1960, was Audrey Hepburn. Mm-hmm. Certainly, she had a beautiful, the famous film critic Walter Kerr said that she was every man's dream of the nymph we hope to meet one day. And she was pencil thin and with those doe eyes, which I'm sure you remember.
Oh, yes, I remember her.
Ravishingly lovely. And I once wrote a line about her that I copied from one of my books. I said she was the epitome of class without snobbery and artistry without pretension. And that she was from Belgium, actually. A lot of people thought she was French, but now we have to get Marilyn Monroe in here somewhere. Marilyn Monroe was the only one on my list that had a little bit of nip and tuck with a plastic surgeon. All the others had their natural beauty intact, and she went on to become the love goddess of the 50s. We don't have to talk much about her because she's just too well known, but her rendition of Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Yeah. She wore a shocking peak gown, and is viewed now as the sexiest dance musical ever put on film. And Carol Baker was a rival blonde actress mostly of the 50s. And she said if Marilyn's hips weren't gyrating, she was wiggling her shoulders or juggling her pink breast or making that sucking Fisher pucker mouth. Everything about her said, I'm yours, take me.
Amazing.
A little jealousy there, right?
I would say so, but this is great. This is quite a list, of course. And I know of a lot of these people. Some, of course, I know all their names, but some I can't really get to. But most of them so far, I'm really right there.
I bet you remember every one of them.
So far.
Now, no list would be complete without Elizabeth Taylor. I wrote a book about her. One of the best-selling books I ever wrote.
Yep.
This violent-eyed beauty enchanted us as a child during World War II when she burst on the screen in National Velvet. And then we followed her, at least her fans did, on this roller coaster ride of sex and scandal, and we went through all of her heartbreaks and sensations. She was beautiful. She was glamorous. She was also outrageous. She had a potty mouth. And the quote that I liked most about Elizabeth was what Richard Burton, whom she married two times, he actually spoke not of her face but of her breast. And he said, they were apocalyptic. They will topple empires before they wither.
That's funny.
I loved it.
Oh, my.
Oh, my God. I have to bring in Italy, because Italy had some... I worked for years in Italy doing Frommer's Italy, and it has some of the most beautiful women in the world. But at the very top of my list, I would put Sophia Loren. She was born in 1934, and she's still alive and well and doing beautifully. She said something that's totally wrong. She says, everything you see about me, I owe to spaghetti. But of course, that was ridiculous. Noel Coward, the playwright, said she should have been sculpted in chocolate truffles so that the world can devour her.
Oh, my gosh. These sayings are fabulous.
And then audiences fell in love with her, and she said, sex appeal is 50% what you've got and 50% what the public thinks you have.
One thing I'll say about her, though, she's still out there on the road. Every once in a while, I see where she's coming to make some sort of an appearance.
Yes. A few months ago, I walked up the street to this 1920s theater, and she came out on the stage to thunderous applause, and she looks fabulous today.
Right.
Let's face it, you can be born in 1934 and still look fabulous.
Yes.
You got to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Now, here's another goddess that I knew, Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr and I had the same literary agent. I met her late in life. She held up her elbows to me, and she said, I've just had my elbows lifted.
Oh, no.
I never heard a woman say that.
I never heard that either. Her elbows lifted.
But many people considered her the most sultry brunette in the world. She enchanted everyone from Adolf Hitler, whom she calls a poseur, to Mussolini, whom she found pompous. And then when she came to Hollywood, she was pursued by Errol Flynn, Howard Hughes, Clark Gable. And here's that name again, JFK.
Oh, really? I didn't remember that.
Oh, yes. That was when he was a Navy lieutenant back in Hollywood. But she said something to me that I never really understood. She said, I gave each of these men a little bit of myself, but I saved the rest of myself for my own amusement.
That's good. I wonder what that means.
I have to still figure that out. Here's another woman that I knew. I met her for the first time. Tennessee Williams introduced me to Vivian Leigh in Rome when she was making a movie with Warren Beatty, Whatever Happened to Mrs. Stone. But she immortalized herself in Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind.
Yep.
And in my opinion, and I wrote this down to the Academy, if any film survives into the 23rd century, it is likely to be Gone with the Wind. Yep. She led a torturous life off screen. She was once married to Laurence Olivier. She suffered what is now known as bipolar disorder. Her lover, Peter Finch, the actor, said Vivian is a flawed masterpiece. But I would say, flawed though she might be, masterpiece is the key word for Vivian. I love Vivian. Oh, my God, I still have time for two more. Well, I had to put Grace Kelly on the list. Grace Kelly, as the world knows, became the Princess of Monaco. But before she became that, some of the biggest names in the history of Hollywood fell madly in love with her. Oh, God. Clark Gable, Gary Cooper, Bing Crosby, William Holden, Cary Grant, Frank Sinatra, Spencer Tracy, James Stewart, and lest we forget, JFK.
Huh.
On leaving Hollywood, she said, "It amuses me, holier than thou for the public, but unholier than the devil in reality."
These sayings are great, and you remember them, or have you written them down?
Yes, I do. Well, you know, I write a great deal about all these people, and you know, I have my favorite quotes that they all said, or in some cases, what people said about them, which is also sometimes more interesting, is what people said about them. You know.
Now, Darwin, before you get to the 15th, I'm observing something because I've been writing them all down. Most all of them were either auburn or black-headed, where today most people, famous women, are blonde. So you have Grace Kelly, who was blonde, and you had, I guess it was Marilyn Monroe, and I was looking at the list, and and Lana Turner. Most all of them were dark-haired, weren't they?
Well, even the blondes, except for Grace Kelly.
No, but I meant the ones who really looked like they were blonde.
You're right.
And today,
You're
that's not
absolutely
true. Today, men seem to want blondes.
Yes, but my assignment was before 1960. And I must say, you're absolutely right. You can't even... I don't know if you ever turn on Fox News, but it's like every woman commentator on there is blonde. But the only difference is it used to be a sin to show the black roots, but now they seem to go blonde and show the black roots.
Yeah, it's very strange. But anyway, so you did Grace Kelly. All right, who's your 15th? I'm writing all these down.
And then it's a woman we once did a show on. Her name was Yvonne DiCarlo, the Queen of Technicolor. Mm-hmm. And many people now list her at one time as the most beautiful woman in the world. But I would never go that far. But I don't mean to distract from her sultry beauty, which she certainly had. But I had to put her on my list because she got raves in her lifetime. But I did write down once in a book I wrote, I found this quote about Yvonne DiCarlo. It was from Anthony Quinn, the actor. He said to her, "I want to place you on a pedestal where I can worship you hour after hour. With your goddess-like figure, you should never wear clothes."
Oh, that's fantastic.
I love these people.
These are great. These are great.
Well, I don't know if we have time for one more. Maybe we do. Okay. This is a woman you may not know, Dolores Del Rio. She came she had the most beautiful porcelain skin. I used to see her in Acapulco when I used to go there. And she was called Mexico's greatest import. She once ended up playing Elvis Presley's mother. And she was asked the secret of her beauty. She says, "I never go out in sunlight, and I eat orchid omelets."
What's an orchid omelet?
Well, it's an omelet made with orchids.
Really?
You can eat orchids, you know. I ate
No. I'm glad. I love orchids. You can eat them?
Yes, you can eat orchids. Yeah.
Next time I come there, will you make me an orchid omelet?
Yes, I will. I've actually served flowers in a salad. Yes, I've done that. No more. I don't do things like that anymore. But Dolores Del Rio actually was the first woman who made popular the two-piece bathing suit for women.
Huh.
Before her, you know, you've seen those pictures. Women wore full bathing suits.
Yes.
Now, the novelist Eric Marie Remarque, he wrote All Quiet on the Western Front. Famous. He said, "Every part of Dolores was beautiful, even her toes."
No, isn't that interesting? I do see her in my head, but I don't remember too much.
She was beautiful. And the thing about Dolores, I used to be invited to her parties, not because she liked me particularly, but I knew someone she knew, so I came along for the fun. But I've just never seen such incredible skin on a woman. I mean, I guess one trick is not to go out in the sunlight, which means she never went to Florida, but hell, she lived in Mexico.
Right. You wonder, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess you can live in Mexico if you never appear after 6 p.m. I mean, if you only appear.
That's right. If you only appear. Exactly. Okay,
Well,
that's 16. Who's 17?
You'll never know the rest of the women on my list, but they're there, and I think we have to go now.
Well, let me just say, this is going to be the most magnificent. I guess it's going to be a book, or it's going to be a museum, or what's it going to be?
It's going to be, well, first they're going to do the collector's edition. They're going to find the most beautiful pictures of these women. In fact, I think nearly every woman I name will be on the list. Now, the other ones I didn't read off could be questionable because but I went to, you just got to put Grace Kelly and Elizabeth Taylor on there.
I've got it.
And then they want to open a museum because they have found that Hollywood museums, they really need tourist attractions. And like in Vegas, thousands and thousands of people go there, and many would like to go. They'll probably charge $10 or $12 to go in, and they'll get permission to do film clips of these stars.
Ah, yes. It's very exciting. I think it's a winner. Definitely a winner.
And I'm honored to have been invited to vote.
Yes, but sign the contract. Sign the contract.
Oh, you mean, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to... I'll tell you, though, there's a lot of fine print there.
Well, it's wonderful to talk to you this morning. This was a great show. I really, just thinking about all those people, we'll have to discuss this further. But, Darwin, thank you so much. You
never know what we're going to talk about.
No, I don't. That's why I always wait with an open mind. Thank you, Darwin.
Have a wonderful show and a wonderful day.
Dog Day of August. Goodbye.